Transport Management SAP STMS. So SAP Transport Management System. So as part of this one, yesterday we have performed the configuration, TMS configuration. So TMS configuration means so the first of all we have defined the domain controller, then transport routes, then transport layers. Up to here we have discussed what is transport layers, routes, how many types of routes and layers we have. So we discussed here, right? If we go to the STMS is the transaction code to perform the transport management system. Here ND4 is the domain controller. ND4 is the domain controller here, right? So you can see it here, ND4. So ND4 is the domain controller. You can go to the STMS transaction code here. So you can see, so here you can see transport configuration is inconsistency, transport route configuration is the inconsistency, which means the routes are not correctly configured or distributed here. So they have configured to the ECP. So ECP. So just again we can adjust it. Why? Because ECP system is the production, right? So the editing is locked by the DDIC user, means someone already doing the editing here. So if I go to the SM12, so let's see who is doing what. SM12, the lock entries means it's locked. So some other person is he done the locking here. Let's delete the lock entry. Okay, so let's go to the STMS. So let's delete this one. Okay, I'm just trying to delete this one here. You can delete it. Just go to the edit mode. So here we can delete it. We can delete these configurations and everything here, right? So either you can configure the 2 systems or 3 systems. Also, we can configure it in the system here, right? So either 2 systems or 3 systems, everything we can execute it here in the system. So if you see here, okay. So 2 systems, ND4, NWD, like that we configured. Or we can also go with the standard. So you can also go with the configuration, right? Go to the configuration. Just you can edit it, development, production, something like that. Also you can edit it. Suppose if you have to make one system as a development, otherwise I can make ND4, ND, NWD. So like that also you can. That is your wish. How you want to change the system, you can change it. So immediately the vice versa, the structure got changed. You can see the vice versa, the structure got changed here, NWD to ND4 here, right? So how you want to change it, you can change it here, right? So that is the transports. So if you have the 3 systems, that is also possible. If you have the 2 systems, so then that is also possible here. So how you want to define, you can define it here. So that is what the TMS configurations here, right? First of all, we have to make the development, quality, production. In that, so order wise you need to make it here, development to quality, quality to production. How the systems will come, the same way we need to get the systems here. See here, ECP, use the ECD. So P is the production. So if you are doing something, if you are doing something wrong in the production, that may cause the some issues. So that's why I asked you guys to use the developments. So we have the development is there. You can use the development systems. You can use it here. Okay. So that is what here. So you can see it is checking the components of the request and everything now here. This is the refreshing the buffer. This is the refreshing the buffer here. So this is the checking the component request and refreshing the buffer and etc everything here. So now configuration, all the TMS configurations and everything, we have to do it in the 000 client only, right? In the domain control system. In the domain control system, we have to do it all the configurations here. So yesterday we discussed the how to configure, how to add the systems, transport routes, transport layers, all those things yesterday we discussed, right? Yesterday We discussed about the all those things we discussed. So now let's start the discussing about the let's start discussing about the two systems are there ND4. So here we discussed, right? So now how to create the now configuration is done, right? TMS configurations are done now. So now once done, so you can see configuration is done. So NWD as a development like that we created NWD as a development we created NWD as a development we created here NWD as a development we created. So here, so we have to log into the development system. We have to do the so transport request creation. Now the topic is once the configuration is done, how to create the transport request. So request, I mean to say transport request. So why? Because we need to transfer, right? So we need to transfer the data here. So transport request here, we need to transfer the data. We have to go to create the transport request here. So we need to create the request. We need to add the objects into the request. So we need to release it. Then we have to import it. That's what we have to do it here. So creation of the transport request will be performed by the our developers, transport owners, like developers are the functional people. They will do the so these activities, development activities and everything here, right? Creation activities and everything. In that case, you need to log into the client, any client you can log in. So then means which business client we have to log in. So there you need to create the request here. So how to create the request here? So you need to go to the either SE01 or 09 or SE10. You can take the any one of the transport require any one of the transaction code. So click on the create option here. So if you go to the SE01, so then you will get the transport screen here. Here, just click on the create, right? So transport request creation. So normally this is not our scope here. This is not our scope. This will be done by the functional and developers, right? So here there are the three types of requests are there: customization request, workbench request, transport of copies here. So customization means client specific, only client specific data. It's not the so cross client or repository changes. Customization means client specific data. So suppose you have the 100 client or you have the 001 client, you want to do the changes of the only client specific, only this client specific local changes. That is called the customizing request here. All the local changes requests are in the customization request here. So your create workbench request means it is applicable for the all the clients, all the systems, all the clients, all the systems, that is applicable, all the clients and all the systems. So that is applicable here. All the clients, all the systems, that is applicable here. That is called the workbench request. Workbench request here. So customization request and workbench request. Transport of copies means during the refresh time. During the refresh time, we will use the transport of copies here. These are the remaining objects will not be useful. This is only one time during the refresh time. We will use this one, but regularly the developers will use these two options here. In that, the second option is the workbench request. Will use it by because it will be useful for them. So here, what you have to do, you need to provide the description of the request here. What is the description, right? So suppose you are doing some table changes, you are moving the object, something like that. So then you can just mention the table changes to production here. Means so you are moving this table changes to the production. Sir, only description we have given, right? So then only description we have given. Now you see the request got created, transport request got created here, right? So the TR request naming convention will be so SID, K9 and number, 5 digits number. So if you are creating the first time, SID is the NWD, then NWD, K9, 000001000234, something like that, you will get the request. This is called the transport request. So transport request has types. So when you create the request, there is a number will be generated that is called the transport request number. So in the transport request, we have to add the data. We have to add the objects here. So click on the request here, right? So now it is in the modifiable status. Modifiable status means it's not released. It's not released here. It's in the modifiable status here, right? So here what we have to do, we need to add the objects here. So this part is typical here to understand for you guys. Why? Because here we need to write the code. Some syntax we have to give it here. So it's a full object we are transferring. Then what is the object? Which object means what data you are trying, what type of data you are trying to GUI packages, Brahman, so tables, screens, tables, whatever you want to do, whatever you are trying to do, tables, so tables, so table definitions, table type, so whatever you want to doing, so that tables related information, so we have to do it here. So these are the types of data we can move from one system to other system here, right? Client copies means all the data will be moved, but here the specific to the specific data, specific object, specific table, specific screen, specific things we can go with the here. So R3TR, TABU means table. Suppose I am planning to move the one table here, the table name. So what is the table name here, right? Suppose like TBDLS, logical system naming conventions here, TBT TBDLS table name. This table I am planning to so go with this one here. So then I need to enter the all the keys, all the entries I want to go with this one. So go okay. So then table details I have entered here, right? Means I want to move this table data from one system to other systems, right? In system to other systems here. So then once you've done it, once you add the just release it. Why? Because when you release the transport request number, so request number inside of the request we are just providing the data. So this data has to be moved. So this is the request number 294 NWDK9 00294 is the request number here. So what will happen now? This request will be released. Released means so transport request creation, adding the objects, then release, then import. Release and import. This one we have to do it here. This type of activities we have to do it here. That's why so creation of the request and all those things is not our part here. So it's done by the so the developers or transport owners, we have to do it here. So just to go to the USR, so SAP, USR, SAP, so SID, USR, SAP, trans. In the trans folder, this is the transport related folder here. So here, whenever you create the transport request, it will create the, so it will update the folder, like the trans bin directory, it will update the configuration files and everything here, right? Then buffer, what is buffer means imported transport request will comes under the, in this buffer here, right? Imported transport request will comes under the in this buffer, it will come to the here, right? So I'm not sure why the syntax errors are coming, but here we can see it whether your workbench request is released or not, right? Just select it here, click on the display mode here to we whatever the transport request number you created, some table movement or something. Yeah, table movement. So it got released to 94. So released means you got the tick mark here, which means when you click on this button, it got released. Released status here. Released means the transport request got released. Then we can import to the target system here, right? So here the table changes. The table changes. So whatever the table like OTA DBDLS logical system table. This is the logical system table which got released. Logical system table which we are trying to import this table data. This table data we are trying to import it here, right? In that case, we have created the transport request. The request is called the carry bag. So normally, if you take the outside of the example, when you go to the shopping mall, then when you purchase the anything here, either shirt or t-shirts, then then they will give you the one carry bag. Inside of the carry bag, they will provide you the your item object, right? So here also the request is like a carry bag, then object is a inside of the carry bag there is a item. So that is the outside. So why? Because you need to carry the object from one location to another location. You need to carry your shirt from one location to another location. So here the carry bag is required here to cover into inside of to keep that object into. So here SAP the transport request is required here to move the data from move the object from one system to other system. If you want to entire data, then client copies we can do it. Entire client data we can move it. They don't want to entire client data. They want only only specific table or specific object they want to move it, not all the one. In that case, they can go with the transport approach. Then they can create the transport. They can go with the transport approach here. So then they can add the objects here. Then they can release it. Then we can import it here. So see here. So they will ask us to import it, right? So then what we will do, we will go to the then they have created the transport request. So now first of all, before we that just check the table entries. Why? Because this table we are trying to move to the respective target system here. How many entries are there? So 70 entries are there in this table. 70 entries are there in this table, right? This table data we are planning to move 70 entries here. So now go to here ND4. Let's see in the ND4 how many entries are there for same table here. Both are two different systems. NWD we have 70 entries for the table here. So here SE16. So number of entries, yeah, 25 entries only here. Means less entries compared to the, so NWD, here we have the less entries, less data. Less entries and less data is there here. Row. So now what we want to do, we want to move the data to NWD to ND4. So we can use the transports. So then you created the transport request, then go to the STMS. From here onwards, it's a basis team responsibility to import the transport request here. It's a basis team responsibility to import the transport request here. Select the system. So just go to the STMS, go to the import queue, then select the system here. So just to read it, right? So ND, so nothing exists here. Delete the filters. Oh, ND4 is the here in the transport where we have to create the request, the source system. So ND4 we have to create, but we created in the NWD we created. So that's the wrong reverse order we created. But however, this is seems to be red. So seems someone already while I am discussing the class, someone already doing some changes in the system. So that's the reason. So what I can do, I can freshly delete the configuration again. Again, I will redo the configuration. Why? Because the configuration not correctly performed here. Yes, I want to do the reconfiguration here to proper manner. Okay. So configuration. Now NWD as a your development. So here we have to create the transport request. So in this case, so just log into the 000 client. Again, I am doing the configuration. Okay. TMS configuration I am doing here. Here, click on the STMS is the transaction code here. So then, you can just add to the ND4, NWD, you can add to the ND4 here. Just click on the save button. It will ask the TMS ADM password. Why? Because this is the user is getting created as part of the configuration. Just ND4 ADM. So normally you should not ask user ID and password. So in case of destination is wrong, you will get this type of issues. So what we are doing, STMS, I'm doing the reconfiguration. So TMS configuration I am doing here. So NWD as a transport domain controller here. So profiles, everything is getting created, NWD. So now ND4, doing the proper configuration since something wrong. So STMS, right? We are transferring to the NWD, NWD, NWD. So that's fine. So we are integrating into the NWD here. So here, this configuration is very important. So if you want to import the data from one system to transfer the data from one system to other system here, then come to the here. So go to the systems, select the system, click on the system, click on the approve button here. Select system and click on the approve button here. So runtime error. Go to STMS. Okay. So go to systems. It should be green. Yes, both should be green here. So now you can see it here, transport routes. So based upon these routes, your TMS configuration will act accordingly. So here ND4 is a development, NWQ is a quality. So we'll keep the same symptoms here. Okay, we'll keep the same ND4, and when you create the request, it will come to the NWD. So like that, we can keep the same request here. We can give the same thing here, right? So now what I can do, so once everything is okay, so now let's start creating the transport request here. But where I have to create the transport request here? So here, based upon this naming convention, you can see it here. ND4 you need to create it here. Why? Because the source you have to create it here, ND4. So let's log on to the ND4 system. This is the ND4 system. Go to the SE01 transport transaction code. Just click on the click on the create here. So you can change it either NWD. So you have to change the respective systems here. So either NWD or ND4, whatever you want, you have to change it here. So description. So description, that is called the table movement. Table movement here. What table here? Just you need to change the table table copy or table data changes, whatever you can move the table, not only table. Some people they will call it a different naming convention. It's different. Okay. Your target system is the NWD. So ND4 you are creating the request, the data will be moved to the NWD system here via transports. Now 73 is the request number, 74 is the sub request number. 73 is the request number, 74 is the sub request number here. So here what we have to do here, we need to so we need to add the objects here. Some table or objects we have to add it here. So we thought of we have to move to the TBDLS table, right? Just select the table here, go to the lock symbol here, table keys, click on the save button here. Okay, so save button here. So then, so you can just release the request. So you can just release the request here. So here for this table, for table we are moving. Table we are moving to the source to target here. So table we are moving here. These all are the previous table request here, right? So table movement we are changing into the tables from one system to other system here. Table means table level data, whatever the data is there in the table. So this is the request, right? This is the one. So here, so first how they will release it? First they will release the subtask. Then we have to release the main task here. Subtask and main task we have to release it here. So whenever you release the transport request here, you see this is getting released. This is getting released here. So means first request has to be created. First transport request has to be created here. So once the request has been created, then we have to release it. Then we have to import it. So importing the transport request from NWD, we have to do it here, right? NWD. So go to the respective system. Which system you want to import the transport request, right? NWD, you have to import the transport request here. Go to the STM. This is purely our scope here, right? Importing the transport request. Select the system. Select the import overview. Select the import overview. So select, you want to import to the here, right? Just click on the refresh button. The request which you created and released, it will come to the in this list here. It will come to the in this list here. It will come to the in this list here, right? So then you can see it here. See here, one request which you created, it is in the NWD. So this is the buffer, transport queue, buffers. Select the respective system, which system you want to import the transport request. So we have to select the request here. We have to select the request here. So then whenever you release the transport request, what will happen? This request will split into, request will split into two files here. One is the co files, starts with the K9, and second one is the data files, starts with the R9, K9 and R9. Request will split into the two files here. So which means in the OS level, whenever you release the request, co files K973, right? K90073 here. Just now it is released. Then co files and data files R973 request number 73, it got created. Means your transport request got split into the two files. One is the co files and data files. Co files and data files here. Co files and data files here. Co data files here. So see here now request is released here 73. The table changes here. Now select the request, click on the, there too, you have to import, you have to click on the import. Now our duty is go to the STMS respective system, go to select the request, then click on the import the request here. So while importing, you need to choose the target client. Suppose like target client is this is the one you want to import to that 001 client. So you want to run immediately? Yes. You want to go with the options. You want to request import again. You want to override the originals, which means request already there, request already there. You want to import everything here, right? So you want to import, you want to override the originals here, right? Ignore the invalid component version. If you want to select, depends upon your company, whatever you choose it, so you can choose the respective option here, right? So just click on the OK button, then click on the yes, then request will get imported here. The transport request will get imported here. See here, the request getting imported. You can see the transport request. The report is importing. Means the data, the table data will getting imported here. So the table is getting imported here. Now see, so we are importing to the NWD. So whatever the entries are there in the ND4, those entries will come into the ND4 here. So let's see. So here the request got imported. You can see the transport request number written code 0, which means RC 0, written code 0. If it is the green, the request asks the request. So 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 request got imported. You can see the green mark means the request is successfully imported. Return code 0, RC 0. So which means the transport request got imported. So then just slash n. So you can check the table entries. How many entries are there? You can check the table entries here. So number of entries, it should come to the 25. Previously, in the NWD, we have 70 plus entries. Now, when you import the transport request, all the ND4 entries came to the here. All the ND4 entries came to the here, which means, so the previous entries are gone. The previous entries are gone now here. So which means, so the table entries got reflected here. The table data, table entries got reflected here. So this is the transport movement here. You are not doing entire client transport or client import or anything here. Just what you are doing, just to in the client, one table changes which you are importing from one system to other system you are doing here. That is called the transport movement, transport import here, right? That is called the transport import here. Like that, we have to import the transports here, right? So you no need to put the any data here. Just simple transports also. Just click on the create symbol, customize workbench request. Click on the create. Then you can just put the option. So click on the OK button. Just release the transport request. You no need to mention the data also here. Now 75 request number. So 75 request number. This is a subtask. This is the main task here. So this should come to the released status. Whenever the transport request is released, they are the transport request will split into the two files here. One is the co files and data files here. So its co file starts with the K9. Data file starts with the R9 etc here. Data file and a co file, it will starts here, right? K9 and R9 here, right? So then they will ask you to import the transport request into the particular system. So then in this case, you need to go to the ST from here onwards. It's purely our duty here. Importing the transport request, go to the STMS transaction code, then select the import overview, select the request, which request you want to import it here, select the refresh here. So the 75 request number will come into the in this picture here. So through RFC, the data, whatever the data through the TMS RFC connections are there, right? So the data transfer will happen via the RFC destinations here, right? You can see 73, 75. Select the transport request number. So just click on the import. This is a full load truck. Don't click the full load truck. Full load means it will import the all the request here. Now this is only select the target client. Which client do you want to import? So select that client, click on the import, or you want to select the options, you can select it, depends upon your organization's prefer, follow the standards. Just you can just import the transport request into the NWD 011 client here. So like that, we need to import the transport request, right? That we have to import the transport request into the systems here. This RFC destination is not working. See here. So that RFC destination which is created for the 001 client or something, so that is not working now. There is a syntax error. So this type of issues we may face it sometimes in case of RFC destination is not working, TMS destinations. So there is no space at the buffers. So like this, it will happen. So what exactly happens while importing the transport request means here. So while importing the transport request here, so they are the, so in the back end, so TMS ADM user in SM59 to RFC destinations will be helpful to import the data here. Also, there is a one job, RDD IMP job. So this job also responsible to importing the request into respective target system here, right? So these are the objects. Now we have only two systems in the landscape, NWD and D4. So these two systems, so this transport request, there are the two RFC destinations, right? TMS ADM, TMS SVP. These RFC destinations will be helpful here. The RFC destinations will be helpful to import the data here, right? That is the one thing here, TMS ADM, TMS SVP, RFC destinations here. Okay. So that is the RFC destinations part here. So here, if you see here, there is a job SM37. If you see here, when you are importing the transport request in SM37, there is a RDD IMPDP job. There is a job here. This job will import the request here. This job will import the request. So see here, this job is responsible for importing the transport request here. Importing the transport request here. This job will run from the 000 client. So job should run, TMS destination should run, user should not lock. If all are working, then only your request will be imported into the respective target system, here. That is what, so we can say here. So that is what, so transport request here. So here you can see in the trans directory, this is the trans directory here. Files and data files will be created. Bin means all the configuration will be stored into the bin. Then buffer means here, so imported request. Suppose you are importing the two requests, you imported to the ND4 here or NWD here. So those NWD here, right? So NWD is the target. So that NWD, how many requests are imported? The imported transport request. So that will be listed here. How many requests are imported? 73. So that will be listed here in the screen here, right? That is the buffer. Then co-files and data files, co-files are the control files, so which will be generated as when you release the transport request here. So then data files is the data, actual data contains in this data files here, right? So then the next one is the EPS support facts logs to check the transport logs, whether the transport is successfully imported or not. We can check the S logs, A log, U log. There are 3 log files here. Then there's a temporary directory, SAP names here. SAP names means the developers who released the transport request, that users related information will be available in the SAP names field here, right? So that is the transport related file folders and inside of the buffers here, right? So we can see it here whether request is imported or not. So whether it's imported or not, we can see it here. So you need to select the request, click on the import signal, the request will be imported. So this is the way we need to transport the data. This is the way we have to transport the data from one system to other systems here. This is the way we have to do the transports here. Okay. So select it, then click on the import. So which system, which client? So which system, which client? So select the client number as well. So then, so you want to options are available. You want to import the request again, override the originals. Already the data is there. You want to override the originals. Then you can select it here. You can select it here. Override the originals here. So then you have the anything you want to select it. You can select it here. Normally first three we will choose it normally. For every company, they will choose the first three, last one, something like that, first four, last one. So like that, they will choose it here. But that will not give any, that's not the tech problem. But only thing is, you need to know the how to import the transport request here, right? So you need to select the request, click on the import button, select the system and client, click on the yes button. Now the TR is getting imported. The transport request is getting imported here. You can see the request is here importing. So here we can see the go to, and here we can see the data here, whether request is getting imported or not. We can see it here. See here, request got imported here. So here we can go to the import history and see how many requests are imported today, 15th to 22, how many requests are imported. You can just filter the time. Otherwise, you can just see from 2023 to till date, how many requests are imported. Tracking, history tracking here. See here, total 28 requests are got imported here, right? So this is the way we can check the how many requests are imported and everything here, right? Also, we can also track it. See any logs, any errors, TP system log. So if any transports fails or job is not running, something is error, here in the log system log file, we can see it here why it is not running. So see here, there is a error. So cannot remove the file specified path or something like that. We are getting the error, right? So like this, we may face the some issues here, right? So this is a transport log and all those things here. So transport import procedure is purely our responsibility. Transport request creation and is done by the transport owners development. So they will go to the SE01. So what you have to do, go to the SE01, click on the transport request here. So click on the workbench request or customization request, try with this option. Then, so demo 2, you can choose it here. So here, just you can release the transport request here. Here, you can release the transport request. No need to add the data. Why? Because it's an, just for example, one example I told you for adding the tables, how they will add it. But while you are practicing, you don't need to add the data, just to create the request, select it and import the request here. That's it. So now its request is released now. Now they will ask you to import it. Why? Because TMS configuration is fine now. Just click on the refresh button. There is a one more request will come into the picture. Request number 3 will come to the here. So this is the way. Yeah, so request number 3 got created here. So means if you double click it, it will go inside of system, then select it, then click on the import button. Okay, so select it, and import the transport request. So like that, you have to do it here. In the real time, we may have to use hundreds of requests, bulk request, similar procedure. Whenever the request is released, one more file will be created here, 77. So like that, one main task, subtask, we will create it here. So data, the request creation and adding the data into the request, releasing the request will be done by the functional or developer team members here. So our duty is importing the request. Whether data is there or not, we don't bother. So whatever the request we got it, so they will request, I basis team, could you please import the transport request number 77 to this system? Then we will log into the target system, select the request, we will import it. So they are the responsible to keep the data. They are the responsible to keep the data here. Suppose example, so here there is a procedure, TMS configuration we have to do, right? So then the request creation, SE01 request creation, and adding the data into request object. Data means object. Both are responsibility of the your developers or functional, except basis team. You can say functional development. Same. This is also development or functional here. Then importing the request. Importing the request is basis team responsibility. This is our responsibility. This is the one-time configuration. So daily we may have to import the bulk request. So this is the request we have to import into the systems here. That is called the importing the request. So normal issues and all, I will explain tomorrow. So what you need to do, you need to create the request. You need to start importing the transport request. Get familiar with the transport request here. In case of transport request is not getting, what type of issues we may get it, what are the written codes, how to check the logs, how to fix the issue, those things I will explain tomorrow. Today, we can just concentrate on the how to create the request, how to release it. So adding the request, then releasing the request, then importing the request. These things we can practice it for today. Okay. Any questions, anyone?